Welcome. We are at the City Hall Council Chambers for a regular City Council meeting. Today's date's April 24, 2020, where the time's 5:30 p.m. We're at West State Street in Marshalltown, and I call the meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance for those who are able. Roll call, please.
Hoop.
Here.
Isom.
Here.
Kell.
Here.
Lottiehoff.
Here.
Schneider.
Here.
Thompson.
Here.
Walker.
Here.
Okay. We have a quorum, and it's time for public comment. You can read along with me either at the very top under small font or on the middle part of the page. Members of the public may make comments on any item that was not on the agenda during this time. The speaker is to approach the mic, state your name and address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes unless longer comment is authorized by the mayor. The speaker is shall direct comments to the mayor and the council as a whole. The mayor and councilor shall not engage in a discussion or debate on items raised by members of the public, and no action may be taken on items raised in public comments in order to comply with the open meetings laws. Does anyone, should we do the, before asking for council, mayor, or administrator comments? Public comments before that. Oh, public, yeah, no, I wanted to zip right through that. The microphone is open, and so anybody who's here wishing to speak, please stand up and approach the mic.
Hello, Jim Shaw, 522 North 2nd Street. I'm here today to speak about our vicious dog ordinance again. Because of the limited amount of time I've had at past council meetings, I will continue again tonight. At the last council meeting, I detailed what was wrong with our policy and our unenforceable vicious dog ordinance. The Iowa legislatures have passed or are passing a law banning specific breed ordinances. I disagree with their decision. I'm also quite sure that they would change their minds if they were put into a fenced yard with some pit bulls. I will also bet that most of these legislators have never been confronted by an aggressive animal. This is another example of legislatures passing a law that they probably have very little knowledge of, but they know someone who has an adorable pit bull until it's not. I was also surprised by someone informing me last meeting that Marshalltown doesn't have a pet licensing program. No wonder so many citizens don't know that we have a pit bull problem and they have no idea of how many we have. In New Haven, Connecticut, attorney Alexa Mario from the Cardio Mario Law Firm says for pets, first, a local leash law needs to be passed that should be specific about when your dog has to be on leash, how long that leash should be, and whether your dog can be off leash on private property. It should also define what happens if, while on private property, the dog leaves your property and is aggressive towards someone off a leash. This is something Marshalltown needs, and we need it enforced. According to Attorney Mario, states are either a one-bite state or a strict liability state. Explaining the law, she says, in Connecticut, we go by strict liability. Some states and cities, like Marshalltown, go by a one-bite rule, which is kind of like a first strike. So if your dog has never bitten anybody before, but they do bite somebody, they will allow them to have that one bite kind of free and clear before any penalties go into effect. That's not very good news for the person or the pet that gets bitten, and that bite may have resulted in injury or possible fatality. But Connecticut doesn't do that, and neither should Marshalltown. They have a strict liability law. That means that if your dog bites somebody and they've never bit anybody, you're strictly liable. But it's not just biting. It's also if the mailman or anyone else comes to your front door and your dog comes out of the house and starts to chase them. As the person running away falls and hurts themselves, you are liable. Even if your dog didn't attack him or bite him, the dog is responsible for him hurting himself. So therefore, you are responsible under the strict liability law. If the Iowa legislature thinks that it's important enough that dog ordinances need to be stressed on the state level, then I think Marshalltown is going to have to redo our dog ordinance, especially since our current vicious dog ordinance is not enforceable. We need our ordinance to be like Connecticut, a strict liability law. I also think we need to have a strict second bite law. If a dog bites twice, it's euthanized, no third chances.
Thank you.
Mark Eaton, 1007 South 10th Avenue. So now that we've raised taxes, I think we need to look at the ADA master plan. There's a number of sidewalks that are deficient in the city, including one not more than a block away from Rogers School, which is deemed inaccessible for handicap access. Part of the problem is a city alleyway and the approach to that city alleyway that I think needs to get fixed. I think you should look into it. It's on North 6th Street between State and Fremont. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Your Honor, I have a written comment that was submitted today. Doris Kinnick from 2020 Catalina Place. She wanted to say thank you for the information shared at the homeless work session on Thursday night. It was exciting to see what Bridge Home is doing in Ames, and she hopes Marshalltown will have a much-needed homeless shelter.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, well, let me skip ahead to the years of service. First, please.
All right. Lieutenant Ackerman, Marshalltown Police Department. We're here to recognize Sarah Lewis for 10 years of service with the police department. She is one of our records clerks, and she has one of the most important jobs on the department. As you know, everything we do is documented. If it isn't documented, it didn't happen, right? So part of that is we need to make sure that the documentation is done correctly. So she gets the joy of going through every single report that officers make, not just reports, but citations too, and making sure that those are accurate. Believe me, a lot more times than not, they are inaccurate and need redone, and she catches that. So she keeps us in line, and she performs a critical service for the department on a daily basis. On top of that, with reading through all of our reports, I don't think I've ever seen her not smiling. So clearly she enjoys her job, and we really love having her. So thank you for 10 years of service, and here's this.
Thank you.
After your picture's taken, we'll expect about 5 minutes extemporaneous speaking.
Great job. There you go. That's all you got. Oh, yeah. Alrighty.
And Sarah, I have a question for you, if you want to step over there.
Okay.
Okay, this is your chance to tell us, of all the officers, who is the worst speller?
I don't know about speller, but a couple of them come to mind as writers, like being able to read what they wrote. Spell check helps everybody else. They write reports on the computer, so.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks for the good work.
Thank
Appreciate it.
you.
Okay, well, that was our only one of the years of service. Thank you for that. On the schedule is the proclamation about the Arbor Day. You can read it, and it's been published on the webpage. Go plant a tree and help us plant the trees. God knows we need them back here in Marshalltown. All right, time for the consent agenda. Anybody who's...
Your Honor, I had,
Oh, I forgot to ask, yeah, if anybody on the council or you or I had anything to say. First, let's go with council. Any council member wish to speak?
Your Honor, if I may,
You may.
I got to witness two really cool things this weekend. My friend John Blabaum, who owns the record store in town, Wax Ecstatic, they have, twice a year, they have a record store day where there's limited vinyl releases. For young people, that's the big round thing, bigger than a CD, okay? So there were 85 people in line to get these limited release albums. The Taylor Swift one was the first one that flew out of there. A lot of people were from out of town, out of state. And then